It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Go check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on the videos and leave some comments. We'll answer any questions in future episodes. Also, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Follow us on our listening platforms as well, whether it is Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you find a podcast. And while you're listening or watching, go check out the description. We have year 7 of Rocking Around the 412. It's our Christmas fundraiser that we do every year with everybody that donates. We provide Christmas in the local 724 and 412 area codes to children that are a part of individual families that get nominated for it, as well as partnering with the East Rochester Salvation Army the past three years. And so far this year, we've raised over $1,400. We've also adopted 12 kids off of the Angel Tree so far. Great numbers. Want to continue to push that as long as we can. We're going to keep this going until mid-December. So the top description from now until then is going to be Rocking Around the 412. It's also our pin tweet on X as well. So we've wanted to go check that out and be interested. At least share it because you never know who could see it. Eyeballs could help this thing a lot. Go check it out. What's up?
So as you were saying that, kind of put it in my mind. I was talking to Mary Kay, who's the director over there at the East Rochester Salvation Army. December 9th is the last day, is their drop-off day, because they have to get everything kind of organized. So if you want to be involved with the tags specifically for that, that is the last day that you'll be able to, like, you have to have the tag obviously well in advance to be able to shop for the kid. But if you want to donate specifically for that or take a tag to adopt on your own, December 9th is the cutoff day to make sure that that stuff is back to the Salvation Army. So just wanted to put that out there.
There you go.
All right, this is the Penguins episode. We're going to dive into some Penguin stuff that has happened over the last week. Last week, we basically spent time talking about Sidney Crosby's extension, wondering if Marcus Pettersson could be next, but really starting to ramp up for the season because now, Tyler, we got the prospect challenge that has happened. Now we're into preseason hockey. There was a preseason game Saturday. There's a preseason game going on right now as the time of recording this, breaking the fourth wall a little bit, recording here on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. And I wanted to talk to you specifically about one player in that first game. Penguins get absolutely blown out by the Sabres in their preseason opener. But if you were, if somebody watched the game, Buffalo playing a lot of regulars in that one. Can't say the same about Pittsburgh. What'd you say? There's like 4 guys that you expect kind of be
4 guys that'll probably make the roster.
Yeah. And maybe you weren't including the one that I'm about to bring up, though, I don't think, in that conversation. And I'm wondering if we maybe should. Jesse Puljujarvi had a hat trick in the game. I thought he was clearly, I mean, based off that, pretty easy to say he was the best player on the ice for the Penguins. But he looked very comfortable. We know the size that he brings. His ability to use that size, I thought, was on display. Getting into the right spots, scored a power play goal very early in this game on a nice deflection. I mean, that's an element of the team that obviously hasn't shown in the past few years. Basically, since Phil Kessel was here, they haven't had much of a power play. So, I mean, he's not somebody that you're expecting to play the top power play unit anyway, but just pointing that out as well, that he contributed in that facet. But I wanted to ask you, like, man, the past few episodes, we've been talking a lot about the amount of bottom 6 players that they kind of have in the mix, and just like it's already a crowded room. And I don't think that we were taking like Puljujarvi as a serious contender for one of those spots. And now if he's going to play like this and he is a contender for one of those spots, I mean, that certainly doesn't help the numbers game with trying to figure out who's going to be the guys to win those jobs on the bottom 6. But it seems like he's, I mean, kind of planted a flag towards saying like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming over from Edmonton, he was on that tryout contract last year, right? Like, there was some optimism about that signing because it's a player that has scored 14, 15 goals in the NHL before, 30-something points when he was with Edmonton. I think that there was some pedigree there that could have been tapped into with the Penguins and still can be tapped into. I didn't think that whenever he had his stint in the NHL with the Penguins, I never thought he was like a bad player out on the ice. I didn't think he was egregious at all, but I never was blown away either with his play or felt like he needed to absolutely be in the lineup. But for sure, I think he should be in the mix. His hat-trick performance was impressive, considering that it was against Buffalo's, like a lot of their actual starting lineup. So when you can take that into consideration, he should absolutely be in consideration. And it's going to, like you mentioned, not play well with the numbers game, because that's just another hat that you are throwing into the ring when it comes to who's going to take up maybe, I don't know, 4 spots of the bottom 6 that seem to be open. But even then, how many of those are already starting to get predetermined of who they're going to be playing with? Because I think that you're looking at realistically maybe 2 spots, even though it's probably on paper 4. I would say you're probably looking at 2 spots, because there's a couple guys like Cody Glass that I would say is definitely going to be on the NHL team. I would say Blake Lizotte is somebody that's going to be definitely on the NHL team. There's a couple open positions that are a possibility. Jesse Puljujarvi could be playing into one of those positions, but then you also have guys like Matt Nieto, Noel Acciari, Anthony Beauvillier is another one that there was a signing this offseason. Like, you have a clog. Puustinen still here. Some of those prospects that are down there, Koivunen, Ponomarev, you have a lot of guys that could be competing for a couple spots, which is, I guess, a better problem that they've had in the past, because last year I felt like you had a lot of poor players or bad players competing for spots in the bottom 6.
Poor.
Yeah, they're not necessarily poor. They make a lot more money than I do. But I think that you are getting better players to compete for the spots than you did this offseason. Are they great? Maybe not, but I think that you're constructing a better bottom 6 than you did a year ago, even though you're kind of in the similar situation where you've got a lot of bodies and you're going to have to fill it with just a few of those bodies. I think that they have gotten better players to get into better situations this season.
Certainly hope so. I mean, we talked last year, kind of before the season, feeling like they're just shuffling things around and changing. You're going from a bottom 6 that couldn't defend to a bottom 6 that couldn't score. That's what they did from 2 seasons ago to last year. What is this bottom 6 going to be? TBD on that, but we'll see. All right, but anyway, let's get into some questions now. Again, we'll see if Puljujarvi is able to kind of carve out a role for himself or what that looks like. But we actually got a decent amount of questions here. Clark starts us off. King Clarky, we appreciate the question. What would the Penguins have to do this season for you to consider it a successful season?
I mean, is it a cop-out if I just say go back to the postseason?
They haven't made it 2 years in a row after
I think that this is the first time in 20 years, nearly, that they haven't made the postseason in back-to-back seasons. I don't think it's really out of the questions to say that getting back to the postseason would be a successful season, even if they get bounced round 1. Like, yeah, that would suck, and it would be a heartbreaker. But considering what we went through the past couple of seasons and knowing what we had from our star players still, and with that fact, they still didn't get back to the postseason. They still weren't able to build the team well enough around your aging star players that are still playing at a high level. That was the disappointing part. So I think there's getting those guys back to the Stanley Cup playoffs, I would consider a successful season. I don't think that they could do anything outside of making the playoffs that would make it a successful. Like, if you miss the playoffs again, I don't care what happens during the season, it's not going to be successful. 3 years in a row with a non-dropping off aging core, I just think that would just be worst case scenario. I think that they're well suited to fight for a playoff spot. They were only a few points out of it last season, and I mean, same thing for the season before. So they are right there. They're still in the mix. I just think that they have to get over that hump again and make it back. And I'm not going to be overzealous and say like, oh, they need to win a playoff series. I know they haven't done that in a long time. Hasn't happened since the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs were for them when they beat the Flyers in round 1. But I just think that getting back to the postseason, period, that is a good goal to have. As far as maybe not the Penguin organization, because I'm sure that their goals are going to be loftier than fans should be. But from a fan base, your team getting back to the postseason after missing it for the last 2, that should be considered a win on the season.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my answer is basically the same, but I'll add something else because I don't want it to be a cop out and just go right along with you. It would be a success for me if they're able to do that, or at least remain competitive the entire way through, while also continuing this trend that we've seen from Kyle Dubas of being able to stockpile draft picks. Like
Yeah, that's a good
being on
point.
the other side of these deals now, where that is kind of the motive, as opposed to, I'm not saying don't be buyers. Like if you're in a position to buy, I'm still going to be for it, assuming that it's a reasonable price. But I like the way that Dubas has at least been able to do that over the last, I don't know, 12-ish months, the way that he stockpiled assets for a cupboard that was pretty bare. So I would say that still has to be in the back of his mind, and I think that it is, with every move, everything that this organization does. Oh, by the way, we haven't talked about it at all. Joe Pavelski, is something about to happen with him within the organization, rocking a Pens hat. He was at practice. Like, did you see any of this?
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's interesting. I mean, for one, does he want to come out of retirement?
Well, that's where everybody's mind, I think, went to first. But I was just thinking,
I know
like,
that unrealistically that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not the case. But on a more realistic note, or a more serious note, I guess I should say, do you want to come out of retirement? Our bar is pretty low for what we need from players.
I mean,
no, that's interesting. Having
power
him
play,
walk
just
the Penguin stuff. Yeah, power
Yeah.
play specialist. I don't care if you don't play another minute. We just need some goals on the power play. Think about how many games we would have won last year if we could score on the damn power play. It's
you
ridiculous.
just have Pavs tipping pucks in front of the net. That could put them in the playoffs.
Yeah. Another thing that could happen this offseason, or this season, I guess, you mentioned that how they've been able to recoup assets. Last season, they sold at the deadline and somehow got better.
Yeah.
After the deadline. I know trading away Jake Gensel was not something that you or I or any Penguin fans ever wanted to see, but somehow after the postseason or after the trade deadline they got better. I don't think that's status quo. I don't think that's going to be the norm. But adding a player like Michael Bunting made a huge difference on this team. Like if they're able to identify areas of the team, and I don't know that Kyle Dubas was necessarily thinking that they were going to be that noticeably different right away when he acquired Bunting, but I do think there's a reason he acquired Bunting. And I do think that they can look at specific areas that is lacking on the ice for this team and can address that in the trade deadline. And even if it's not a huge flashy play, you're not going out there to get the big fish. There could be certain things that they could address that could put them over the hump. Like if you just need someone in the bottom six that could be, say they're more defensively sound this year and they're overall better scoring, but say you just need someone that is a more consistent scorer, like they could address that as a bottom six player. Like I don't think that they need to go in out and make a flashy play, but I don't think they will at this point. I think that you have that teeter-totter of balancing your assets with also trying to improve the team. At this point in the Stars' career, where the Penguins franchise is, I have a hard time seeing them going out and like trading a first round pick plus other assets to get a type of player that they feel like would get them over the hump.
Yeah. I mean, to your point last year, Michael Bunting, we were kind of against it at first, but turned out he's a game changer. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. Very excited about that. Very excited. Hopefully we get some more Penguins. Maybe one of them will be Michael Bunting. Maybe we'll get a Michael Bunting Game Changer shirt this year. I will certainly be pushing for that to happen. Game Changers, if you're listening or watching this right now. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's get into some more questions here that we got as I open up X and it decides to not go back to the post that I was on.
Tough.
Yeah. John said, who would you like to see as the defensive pairings on opening night? So I guess not necessarily what we think they're going to be, but how would you line up the Penguins defensemen?
Well, I would probably stick Erik Karlsson and Marcus Pettersson together because I thought that was their best pairing last season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
like. I'm not opposed to the pairing of Marcus Pettersson with Chris Letang. I just think that it is better for the team to have Marcus Pettersson with Erik Karlsson. So I would probably go Marcus Pettersson, Erik Karlsson, and then on the top line, I guess Chris Letang and Matt Grzelcyk. I'm trying to think of who's going to even be playing. And on the bottom pairing, you have Ryan Graves and oh gosh, who's another right defenseman that they have?
Well, so I mean, is it going to be Jack St. Ivany, who is probably who I would play?
Oh yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that he was pretty solid last year in limited minutes. Is it going to be Ryan Shea? Is it going to be John Ludwig? Is it going to be Sebastian Aho? I mean, there's some competition, I feel like, for a sixth defenseman spot. To be honest, like, this is what we're doing. Ryan Graves is playing on the moon for my idea.
Yeah, I guess if it's what I'm doing, Ryan Graves isn't in the lineup, but I feel like
being realistic with
some
the six,
sort of
gonna
realism with what I would do. Like how would I play guys that are going to be in the lineup?
Yeah.
And what do you think about the top two pairings though? Like, do you think Grzelcyk would be with Letang?
I think Ryan Graves should start there.
I mean, just kill myself. Like I think that would be terrible. I would hate that idea. And why would you do that to yourself? You are shooting yourself in the foot if you do that.
It's not gonna,
unless you get a massive turnaround from Ryan Graves. I think that I would hate that idea, no matter what. Even if they played good, I'd still hate it.
I think that's what they'll start with. I don't know how long it's going to last. I'm going to say what it will be is Graves, Letang, Pettersson, Karlsson, Grzelcyk, and Jack St. Ivany.
I think that's good pairings. Outside of the top one. Well, outside of your top one, I don't
like Matt Grzelcyk either. I don't like 2/3 of their left side defense.
That's why good is perspective. Good needs context. It's good for what you're working with.
Yeah,
but I don't want Ryan Graves out there. But like everybody, like what Jesse said whenever he was on the show, everybody thinks he's gonna be Paul Martin, or like brings up Paul Martin. It was like maybe he's gonna be Paul Martin. Most people in the NHL, when they're bad, are not Paul Martin, where suddenly they're good the next season. They're just going to continue to be bad.
Yeah, like it's just
that's why the defensive pairing, like thinking about the Penguins defense makes me anxious because everybody talks about the bottom six and nobody talks about how bad the defense might be outside of three players. Nobody talks about how poorly the defense could be for this team. And honestly, that could be the worst part of the team this year. Not goaltending, not bottom six. It could just be your defense as a whole. I think that you can rely on guys like Letang and Karlsson and Pettersson to carry you. Have high hopes for St. Ivany. He looked good last season. But when 2/3 of your guy or a third of your guys that you're icing on the defense are people that you do not want on the ice, I don't have a lot of confidence in that group.
Me either. No, absolutely not. Speaking of lack of confidence, what is this person's name? Okay, we should call him Nick because his @ says Nick in it. And so Nick says, what do the Penguins do long term if Jari struggles again at points this season? I mean, we just saw that. This is why this question says again. We just saw it happen this past season, and it's kind of why we thought you couldn't run it back with the same goaltending duo. They chose to do so, though. So we still have Jari Nedeljkovic. We're going to look at Yoel Blomqvist in the preseason here. I don't know that that's a solution either. Not trying to project what he's looked like right now in his NHL future, but he's a smaller guy. I don't think I think there's certainly people that have doubts about what his NHL projection looks like anyway. But if Jari struggles again this season, if there's an injury that takes place or just in general he struggles this year, you got to think it's time to look elsewhere, right? I know it'd be only 2 years into a 5-year deal, but like you gotta figure this thing out at this position. I mean, for far too long, we've kind of been stuck in this flux with the goaltending position. And if he struggles again this year for a long period of time, we know that what Alex Nedeljkovic is. He's a fine backup / 1B guy, but you saw what happens when he has to carry the workload, and he broke down towards the end of the year. His play fell off because of having to play as much as he did. I don't think that they can continue to go on like that.
I don't think so either. You're going to have to make a decision at some point. I don't think long-term Tristan Jarry is the play, and I think that's going to come to unfold this season. There might be points where you call for Nedeljkovic to be the starter, but ultimately he's not going to be your long-term starter either. Like, you're not going to give him another contract that he's going to be here for 5 years. I think that realistically, they kind of have to buy time, see what Yoel Blomqvist can be at the NHL level, see what he does in the NHL or AHL, this year, and then go from there. If he continues to struggle, it's definitely time to move on. That Band-Aid has needed to been ripped off for probably a couple seasons now, but they were kind of backed into a wall with the goalie situation last offseason, got a new contract, and then kind of similarly, they brought back the same tandem. And then going back to even when Casey DeSmith was here, we've been talking about this same conversation for 3 seasons at least, where it's like, how can they roll back with the same goalie tandem that they are right now? And it's all involving Jarry. And you think the Penguins feel bad? Imagine being Team Canada in 2026 and knowing that Jarry is one of your projected starting goalies. He is on your roster. The Canadian goalie market, as far as who their Olympic roster is going to be, is atrocious for 2026. They've got nobody. America has people. The European teams have people. Canada's got nobody, but it doesn't matter when you have literally an all-star team in front of you. But I digress. That has nothing to do with the Penguins. I think that after this season, you could see a big shakeup at goaltender. And it's someone that I think that everybody's been waiting for. And I think that maybe Nedeljkovic is here and he starts out as a starter next year. I don't know that Jarry's going to be back after this season, unless he has like a massive turnaround where he just turns into, he was an all-star once, but if he has another all-star season and then doesn't have the fall off that he's had every single year in the spring, that's where I would have to see a difference in play from him. But I just don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think a major shift is coming for the Penguins in net. And a lot of that rides on, I don't think that Yoel Blomqvist is going to be their starter like at any point this season, and not even to start next season. But a lot of that rides on what kind of goaltender can Yoel Blomqvist be in the NHL. Like, can he be a backup to Ned to start the season, where maybe Ned's not your one that is starting 65 games, but maybe you do split time between Ned and Yoel Blomqvist next season. I think there's a lot of it riding on him to have a good AHL performance this season in order to have a good NHL performance in the future. I don't know. I think goaltender is tough because there's not a ton of goaltenders out there if you're not willing to pay them a lot of money or trade a lot for them. And so you kind of have to, from a cheap route, you kind of have to grow from within. And that's why I'm putting so much emphasis on Yoel Blomqvist, because I don't really see a realistic path to a different goalie situation for the Penguins outside of him that makes sense for what they're trying to do, because I don't think they're going to shell out a lot of money for a goalie. Don't think they're going to make a marquee trade for a goalie. It's really riding on what it's going to take with Blomqvist, and then obviously the play of the goaltenders that they currently have. I just think that it's going to fall off at some point.
Yeah, I was just say best case scenario is Yoel shows you that he's in a best case scenario is Tristan Jarry and Alex Nedeljkovic just play fantastic. It's not even a conversation, but Yoel definitely needs to show something, obviously, at the AHL level, and then hopefully he is the guy at some point in the future. And he's able to answer those questions about his size. We've seen obviously small goalies succeed at the NHL level, which is I think that is something that sticks out to people when it's an odd that you have to beat, a box that you have to check, if you will, as well. And then the last thing here, this isn't a I guess legit question in terms of performance this year or anything like that, but CJ says, when's Crosby going to get his statue?
When's he going to get a statue? It's hard to tough.
When is it going to happen, and where does
whenever...
it get located?
So I think you got to get it located at. So you got the Mario one up on the higher up entrance. I don't know what you would call that one, but the People's Gate entrance where that flame is, I would assume that's like on Fifth Avenue. I would assume that's where you put the Sid statue. If you have the Mario one that's already up there at the other entrance, I think that's where I'd probably put it, is the People's Gate entrance. As far as when he gets it, it'll be probably a couple years after he retires. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take them to build it or enact that sort of thing, but I can't put a year on it because I don't know when Sid's going to retire. But it'll be.
They should have it
shortly.
They should have it ready to go the night that he announces his retirement.
Is there? Speaking of this, is there a moment or play or something that you would think of where that should be the statue that they build of Sid?
I mean, he's had so many.
I know. Because like Mario's one is when he's splitting the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
Which, gotta be honest, I think there's other ones that you could have done with Mario, but I digress.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what, because it's hard to say which makes for the best statue. I think that's part of why people say about them. Like Mario, I get it because he's splitting defenders like that. So it goes kind of hand in hand with the personal, like the having to overcome things that Mario did as well, like beating cancer. It almost I feel like plays into that, the fact that he's beating two guys on that. So from that aspect, I get it. With Sid, I'm just trying to think, man. Like, would it look good as a statue, the one-handed backhand against the Sabres, 2017 or whatever year that was? I mean, that's one of his best goals, if not his best. But like the moment also, like that's not in the playoffs. Like it's pretty low stakes. So
what about the? I mean, you got if we're talking about like acrobatic ones, you have the diving goal early in his career against
Tampa
Lightning. Yeah.
You
have the shootout goal against the Sabres in the first Winter Classic. You could do it like where he's lifting his leg, or I don't know. Like there's a ton of ones that you could do with Sid, and I feel like you're not going to do one where he is like you would be actively playing and not like raising a cup, right?
Yeah, that's that crossed my mind too. I don't know.
I also think of, so whenever one of Sid's comebacks happened, and it was actually against the Islanders too, and he scored 2 goals that night, but he scored his first goal back, and he's going against skating, sliding against the boards. He's got his foot in the air and double fisting. And I mean, he just it's clear as day. He said, "F yeah." But
do you put the statue with a full cage in?
That would be funny. I mean, that would be kind of like that would be kind of a nod to all the injuries he had.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's
I don't know.
I think that's a good question.
CJ, what do you think?
What would you make Sidney Crosby statue? Like if anybody listening to this, tweet at us, leave it in the comments. Is there a certain play or a certain moment from Sid's career that you would make the statue out of?
Yeah, I don't know. His draft night. I don't know. It's hard for me to come up with one that's just like that would look the best as a statue. So I don't know. Let us know what you guys think. We're gonna tweet this out too, actually. Also, Yeah, I haven't played this yet, but hey, Keats Barbershop sponsors this show. Smitty from Around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keat at Keats Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keats Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keats Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. There you go. If you are somebody that wants to sponsor the show, that's the type of promo that you're getting.
I just found one that I think would be pretty cool. It wouldn't be an individual statue, though. This would also warrant Evgeny Malkin getting a statue. But the picture of the two of them after the back-to-back of both of them kissing the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
I love that picture. And
Yeah.
I think that would be a good statue if you wanted to do a co-statue with Sid and Malkin.
Oh, I saw Gino on Sunday.
Oh, you did? Where at?
Him, Letang, and Drew O'Connor were at the Steeler game, but Gino got dropped off by an Uber. Gino got dropped off by an Uber right by Tequila Cowboy. Like, the dude was just like, screw it, I'm just going out into the public of Steeler Nation right now. So he just got dropped off in the dead center of where the tailgates are. And I was like, Gino?
Did anybody notice?
Yeah. Yeah, I was with somebody that took a picture with him. I'm just not that guy. Like, but it was cool. I mean, he didn't have a problem taking pictures with anybody.
That's good.
And then him and Chris ran the team out on the field. Drew O'Connor was, I guess they were just like, hey, Drew, stay off to the side for a second. What I love about Gino's had that same Troy Polamalu jersey. Like, that is his Steeler jersey. It's the only one he's had, I think. And I just love the fact that he just has that one.
It's probably a knockoff that he got from the strip in 2006.
Letang was wearing a Jack Lambert because of 58, and Drew O'Connor was rocking a blocked TJ Watt, actually, which I appreciated. Yeah. Big year for Drew O'Connor coming up because of that alone. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts, anything we talked about, or a question for a future episode. If you're listening somewhere else, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Whether you are watching or listening, be sure to check out all the links in the description. Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley White, small business. She messaged me shortly before we started recording. Her Etsy got hacked, so do not hit up her Etsy, and you wouldn't be able to anyway. It will tell you that it's not available or they're taking a break or whatever they say. Yeah, her Etsy got hacked, and they actually like completely rerouted the banking information. Like, it's crazy what this person did. So that's gonna be shut down. So that's going to be shut down, and she's going to be starting her own website here in the coming future. So stay tuned for that, but she'll be doing that. And I'm wearing one of her hoodies right now, so hopefully you're able to get one in the very near future, just like this one, black, gray, or white, whatever your preference is. I got all three of them. So if that's what you want to do, be sure to do that as well. Rep the brand. We appreciate anybody that does. We got our shorts, DC4L Customs in the description. And then, of course, Game Changers, gamechanger.la, pick6.la. Save yourself $10 at checkout using code AT412. And then last but certainly not least, Rocking Around the 412 Year 7 has kicked off. This is where we really start to ramp up things in the month of September. Be sure to go to the link, read the mission, donate, share, all that good stuff. At the very least, share, because you never know whose eyes and ears you're going to get on this thing. Every single penny that is donated goes directly to providing Christmas in the 724 and 412 area codes for as many kids as we can. Tyler and I never had to worry about where Christmas was coming from growing up. The mission is completely centered around giving children that type of Christmas so they can experience that for at least one day. In the last couple of years, and definitely going forward in the future, we've been partnering up with the East Rochester Salvation Army. They do their angel tree every year at Christmas. We've been in the last 2 years in the name of our late friend Dalton Keene, and we will continue to do so in the future. Already raised over $1,400 in monetary donations, as well as 12 tags being adopted from that angel tree so far. So we appreciate that, certainly, but want to keep it rolling. Let's keep it going. We can do a ton more, and we have in the past. So let's keep it going. Appreciate y'all. Again, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Penguins show. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.